to the very first episode of my new podcast, The Glam Docket, where law meets lashes and liberation meets lip gloss. Because you guys, I have overthought this for a long time. Like literally since I started the MLS program at UCLA Law, I have been trying to figure out how to navigate a space where people can educate themselves about what's happening in the law world. We know it's so much going on with the current Oompa Loompa we have in presidency, and I just want to have a space where we can create and be creators and have an innovative way to learn about these laws. A little bit about me, if you don't already know, I am Nay the MUA, and like I just said, I am currently in law school, set to graduate in May for a different route for Master of Legal Studies. And I am also a makeup artist who has been in the makeup field since like 2014 when I was in high school. So I have finally found a way to blend the two, and I'm excited to share it with you guys. If you're a content creator, a beauty influencer, or just someone here to learn about the different things in the political system, welcome in. This is a safe space, so grab your drink, grab your makeup brushes, grab your lip gloss. If you're in the car listening to this, I hope you're driving safe, and make sure you buckle up because we are about to jump in. So on today's docket, GloRilla and criminal justice reform, we're going to talk about her recent arrest and what exactly it means for criminal justice reform, because I think this is a good opportunity for us to really get an example of what's happening in our actual communities. Because yes, it's a celebrity, but this is also an issue that we see every day with our Black males, our Black females, and often our brown and Black communities. And so we're going to be talking exactly about what it's like to call the police and be the victim, but actually end up the criminal. Here's what went down. GloRilla, also known as Gloria Hallelujah. I just love her name, by the way. Like, her mom was really creative with that one. She was away performing at a WNBA All-Star game in Indianapolis. Meanwhile, back at her home, 3 people had broken in. Someone inside fired at them, and they fled. Nobody was hurt, gratefully. The cops showed up because of, again, a burglary. The cops were there for a burglary. So naturally, you think that's what they were going to focus on, right? That's not what they end up doing, because the cops didn't even find the people that was responsible for the burglary. Meanwhile, while investigating, deputies smelled what they described as illegal narcotics. Now, they say that's what led them to go get a search warrant to then come back and discover the supposed significant amount of marijuana in her master bedroom. Very specific, okay? How you know she didn't have a party? Anywho, in her master bedroom, that's where they found the significant amount of marijuana. She was charged later with a felony possession of marijuana, which was over 1 ounce, and possession of controlled substances. GloRilla then voluntarily turned herself in on July 22nd and posted a $22,260 bond. How many of you guys got that just laying around to just bond yourself out? I hope so. You know, not counting nobody's pockets, but still, this is, again, I want you to get in the headspace that this is not just about GloRilla. This just happens to be an instance where it's blown up enough for us to have someone we know in our generation, but this is, again, about how this could happen to another person in the community. But anyways, in the tweet that GloRilla wrote, we're gonna put it on screen. My house got invaded. And instead of them focusing on the suspect, they focus on some cannabis. Long story short, I'm the one that gets arrested. Then her attorneys called this arrest a disturbing window into how warped law enforcement priorities have become, pointing out no arrest warrants have been issued for the intruders. The people that actually broke into her house are still roaming around free. But the homeowner, GloRilla, ends up getting arrested. The person who calls the police for help gets arrested. And in my mind, I'm like, Forsyth County, we could do better. But then again, I'm starting to see why lawyers hate math, because stuff just don't be adding up. 1 + 1 don't equal 2 in the cases of criminal justice. All right, guys, we are intertwining our glam tips in between segments. So this is glam tip number 1. And we're going to start off this first tip with our foundation. I under contour and highlight, so that's the first thing we're going to do for this tip. Okay, so now that I'm primed, I'm going to start by doing my under contour. And I am using the Tarte Sculpt Tape in the shade Deep Bronze. Like, really just buff it and go in an upward motion. Keeping that product in a clean and straight line, but just bringing it into a blend. Next for this, we are doing our blush, and I'm using Rare Beauty in the shade Worth. The other one I use is the e.l.f. in the shade Coming In Hot Pink. Different this time, we're gonna blend it downwards into that contour so it has like a clean, blended look. That was our first beauty tip. Let's hop back into the segment. Make it personal. Y'all know y'all the jury, and we're being natural. This is a safe space. So I want you guys to sit there and picture that you have called the cops to file a police report because somebody broke into your home. And maybe you had a party the night before, maybe you had a celebration, and maybe somebody else that was smoking was in your house and they just got you got a little tinge in the house, you got a little smell of marijuana. The cops then arrived to your house, and instead of them focusing on evidence that could potentially help them find the burglars, we say, they focus on the scent. So then they go get a warrant to search your home, then find your weekend stash in your master bedroom, your safe space now, your safe space. And they end up arresting you because they find your safe stash. You pay the mortgage on that home, by the way. Okay? So the same people that you're calling to protect you are now the people who have criminalized you. That's what we're focusing on here. This is where the real issue lies. This is not just about somebody getting caught up, a celebrity getting caught up, because this is about the priorities of our justice system, the priorities of our policing, and how this big game of power plays out if you're a certain shade. It's not okay. Like, I do not want to feel like every time I call the cops, I need to be worried about actually them finding a reason to arrest me. We've seen this happen in so many instances, like the Breonna Taylor incident and the George Floyd, which we'll get into later. And I'm not gonna dive too deep into it because that is a really soft spot for us. But at the end of the day, this whole thing is just giving criminalization rather than justice. So the legal questions I had: was the search constitutional? Was GloRilla in constructive possession of the substance even though she was not even present? And did the police have probable cause even if they were just taking advantage of a high-profile name to create a narrative? Because we know how they do with that too. Cannabis odor has historically been a pretext, a legal workaround to justify searches and disproportionately use it against Black and brown people. And this is where I really want to grab y'all's attention, because seriously, saying just the simple fact of you smell marijuana should not give the police a green light to search people's homes. Because in a lot of states, a lot of other states, and we're going to break down some examples, odor alone would not have been enough to search the home or get a warrant for searching the home. In Virginia, since 2021, it's literally the law in Code of Virginia, section 4.11302. The police cannot search or seize based solely on the odor of marijuana. The law was passed to stop low-level weed claims from being used as an excuse to racially profile and harass folks, especially Black people. I'm gonna give y'all another example. New York, same thing. Their law says smelling cannabis isn't enough to pull you over or search your house, especially since it is legal. Looking at those two states and how they have constructed this legal system to identify that this is what's targeting the Black community, we're noticing a lot more people in jail taking up space and tax dollars for small offense crimes. Meanwhile, there are harsher drugs on the market that actually cause and lead up to murders. And we're not even focused on those, but that's a whole nother story. We're not ready for that. I'm not, at least. I'm gonna need a drink for that one. Now compare it to Georgia, where GloRilla's house was broken into, where she was the victim, where the police show up, no initial warrant. That's not their initial focus. No criminal charges against the people that broke into her house again. But that's exactly why we need reform, and not just on paper, not just the way police use their power. We need real legislation that's going to push forward a narrative that can eliminate. Welcome to beauty tip number 2. And the next thing we're gonna do is highlight. I use 2 different shades. I like to just put this in the little triangular like areas and then just blend that out just a little bit, because I don't want nothing too cakey, nothing too heavy. As you can see by the lighting in the room, it hits those areas where the light shines. So your T-zone, it should be here. So again, we're pulling that product outward so we don't have too much right up under the eye. The light concealer, after I've blended it all out, just in this area, just a little bit to brighten up that under eye. As you can see, it brings like a little bit more light into the face. The next thing we're gonna do is our foundation. I am using the Urban Decay Face Bond in shade 32. So I just put it around the perimeter of the areas we just put our base on. So that's it for this segment. Let's hop back into this. According to the ACLU, Black Americans are nearly 4 times more likely to be arrested for marijuana possession than white Americans, even though they be the same ones using it at the same rate. And that's in this report. It says that even though both groups use marijuana roughly at the same rates. But again, this is not about the law being broken. I'm not sitting here encouraging you to break the law in a state where marijuana, of course, is not legal. What we're talking about is a minor offense that seems to be breaking down the Black community and putting us in places we don't belong, like jail. And you guys, I really want you to look at the sports industry, even what happened to Sha'Carri on her suspicion of marijuana and her testing of the use of THC. And it's like, it's so many times that this simple drug that's legal in so many other places, it creates a narrative for us and it sets us back. And that's what this is about. Like, it's about this being a setback for us, and we do not need any more setbacks. And there are plenty of other things that lead and go into criminal justice reform, but I just wanted to focus on this one because it's so many things that the generation coming behind me don't realize. And so I'm trying to create an opportunity for them to have a space to understand and relate to how something so minute to them could be so large and end up changing their future. And again, this is not hypothetical. Everything that we have broken down, even the examples, it's real life because it happens more often than you think. And this is why so many communities are afraid to call the police. This is why so many times Black communities are scared to speak up if they see something, if something's not going right, because not only is the system not built for us, it's built against us. It starts to really point to the need for stronger guardrails on police conduct. And particularly the areas I want to focus on today are warrant requirements and limitations on exigent searches, protections for crime victims from being criminalized themselves, and oversight of police discretion on how charges are applied and to whom. Warrant requirements and limitations on exigent searches. And I probably said that word wrong, but I know what it means, so don't be coming for me, okay? So let's start with the context. Everybody knows the 4th Amendment protects all of us from unreasonable searches and seizures. And don't lose sight of what we've been talking about. We're just kind of blending everything together when it comes to decriminalization of marijuana, when it comes to the right for searches, when it comes to the means police have when typically needing warrants or pursuing warrants to enter your home, to search your belongings, or to arrest you inside a private space. And so we want to also talk about the side of things when they don't have a warrant, because that happens too. There is the exigent circumstances that come into play. There are situations where the police claims there's no time to get a warrant because something and someone might be in danger, evidence might be destroyed, or a suspect might escape. However, the issue relies on what qualifies as exigent. An officer sees a large crowd running and they just happen to see a bunch of group of Black men running. Oh, it's danger. It's danger. And it's a trauma response. This is not danger, it's a trauma response, and it's a racial profiling, okay? Misuse, again, is where police have historically relied on these exemptions to justify entering the homes and the vehicles without probable cause. And more often than not, that's what leads to these unnecessary and unlawful arrests. So I want to not just highlight the problem and the issues we know that all communities of color face. I want to talk about several reform efforts from many of the constituents that are advocating for us, that are going on right now, from, like we talked about earlier, the unfortunate event that happened with George Floyd. There is actually a George Floyd Justice in Policing. So the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act is a comprehensive piece of legislation aimed at reforming policing practices in the United States. Its main goal is to address issues of police misconduct, racial profiling, and excessive force, while also enhancing accountability and transparency within law enforcement agents. This type of legislation is something that can help progress the things that we've talked about today, but the issue there is that it's currently stalled in Congress. The next thing we're going to do is set that under eye with a little bit of powder. We just press that in under the eye. Really make sure you get under the eye so you don't have creases. This is pretty much to set, and then go in that same area where you put your lighter concealer, just to give it a little bit of highlight. And guys, these beauty segment breaks are also an opportunity for you to shout out your business, to advertise your business or your service. And here is the email you can send those ads to. I'll be doing a certain special for you guys. The next 2 episodes, I will not be charging for advertisements. We're starting out. And so I want to give you guys an opportunity to have ad space on those first few episodes. So make sure you hit that email and send me your business. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of this episode. This is about educating those who may not know what's going on and may not know why they should care, because right now we have a political climate that is questionable. And if we do not come together as a united front and start educating ourselves on the things that are taking place to advocate for them, we're going to stay stalled. You know, we're in a world of politicians who band-aid everything, but don't actually care about giving justice. So I think that we have some work to do. There are other states with legislation that is similar and constantly doing things to try to evolve this issue. California's Racial Justice Act is something that attempts to challenge racially biased practices, but what we really need is federal consistency. We have been talking about criminal justice reform for years, what it looks like. We just broke down an example using a celebrity and the unfortunate incidents that have occurred with her. We broke down sports, and we broke down, you know, the unfortunate incidents of losing community members. But what does it look like for us Georgians? Let's hit home. Let's talk about home. As we said earlier, Black Georgians are nearly 3 times more likely to be arrested for marijuana possession than white Georgians. According to the Marijuana Policy Project's website, Georgia voters actually support legalization of marijuana, but tens of thousands of arrests still continue. And 2/3 of Georgians believe that cannabis possession should be legal. And while legalization does not drastically eliminate the disparities, it actually reduces the total amount of arrests and the damage done by it. And so this is again where the federal decriminalization efforts matter, because bills like the MORE Act, Marijuana Opportunity Reinvestment and Expungement Act, passed in the House, but is currently stalled in the Senate. This act would necessarily decriminalize cannabis federally, federal, state, and expunge non-violent weed convictions, and invest in communities that have been harmed by the war on drugs. So, welcome to the next beauty tip. And for this beauty tip, we are going to be doing our contour powder and our blush powder, and then we're going to get into brows in the next segment. I tap off the excess product and kind of just buff that into that contour zone, which is right on the cheekbone. Next, we're going to do our setting of our blush. I'm using the e.l.f. palette. Just push that in the same area where we put the under blush. Little subtle look. Oh, I'm here for it. Give you a reason of why you should care. This is not celebrity gossip. GloRilla's case is really a case study and just an eye-opener to what's already happening every single day in our communities, in our Black and brown communities, the things that are affecting us. And if we are being real, it's what keeps people hesitant about calling for help, because they are the ones who end up being the criminals. And whether you're an activist or just a woman, calling for help, your safety is often questioned before being prioritized. And that's what I really want you guys to understand from this, because it's time for us to wake up. It's time for us to really understand what's happening in our legislation and in the political world behind things. In summary, drug possession laws, especially here in southern states, are still disproportionately targeting Black people. Criminal justice reform is not just overdue, it's life or death in the Black and brown communities. If you're watching this and you felt some type of way, you feel a little powerless, you feel a little discouraged, I'm sorry. I'm gonna hold your hand again when I say this, but good, because it gives you that fire to kind of care a little bit more about what's happening in our world. And GloRilla's case really has opened the eyes of many who don't even care about politics to try to figure out, how is that even possible? What can you do? Remember, you are the jury here at the Glam Docket. You have a vote, you have a voice, you vote for your sheriff, you vote for your district attorney, you vote for your local state reps, and those are the elections we typically overlook. And those are the folks who decide how the laws in our state gets enforced, who gets charged, who's protected, who's punished. And so if it feels unjust, you're the jury. Call them out on their guiltiness. And not just for this episode, real life, everything, anything that you see going on in the political climate that irritates your soul, look into it, Google it, and comment it on the Glam Docket, because we'll put it on the docket next, and dissect really what we can do as a community to really become a better advocate for those. Don't just sit on your power, use your power. Don't just scroll, don't just sigh after watching this video, don't just feel empowered and then go back to your, I was even the person that said I was the 92%, but now is the time to educate ourselves, soak up the knowledge, so when the fight is on every day, right? But so we can actually be educated with our front. We can be together in our front. My last beauty tip with you guys are gonna be brows and mascara. And then we're gonna set this look. I'm gonna start with the eyeliner product first. Now I'm gonna take my Precisely brow pencil from Benefit Brow and then clean up that line. So this is where you have precision. I'm taking my Benefit Brow microblading pen to create just like some small fine hairs towards the beginning of the brow so it looks more natural. Clean it up with that darker concealer, just a little bit. You can create like a little definition and go under the brow. Take a foundation brush, powder brush, and blend out our face. But we just take that and blend everything together. And then we are going to set our face. I set my face before I do mascara so that way I'm not squinting and getting mascara under my eye. That is all the beauty tips I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this segment. The way you can advocate is simply by educating yourself. So you being here today, you get a hand clap, yay, because you chose to educate yourself and learn something new, learn about criminal justice reform. And if you want to learn more information like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button and come back for our next episode. I love you guys. Thank you for joining the Glam Docket, where you are the jury and you make the decisions for your life. And we hope to see you here next time. Bye, guys. Follow me on Instagram. Follow me everywhere you get your podcast, because next week we are talking about voter rights. Yes, we just talked about how you can use your power, use your vote, but all of that won't matter if your vote is taken away. So we're going to dissect voting rights on our next episode and how the underrepresented are affected by that. So until then, stay glammed up, stay grounded, and stay beautiful. I love you guys. I'll see you on the next episode.